Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for the final edition of Inside the Zone Football Style this year, alongside Tom Davis and his Snoopy tie, which he has graced us with this week. We're talking about state championships, but also we're going to be talking about Player of the Year and also Coach of the Year in the area. We'll get to that in just a second. But this past weekend, Bishop Luers wins the 2A state title. Dwenger falls to Cathedral in the 4A state title game. The 4A state title game going in was kind of a toss-up. Luers, you expected to win the 2A title, and they did just that. So what did you see from Coach Lindsay's team this year that kind of just you expected to see from them this season?
Well, what I expected to see was a lot of talent on their team and a lot of athleticism, a lot of speed, and they had all those things. But this was a group of kids that really persevered through some adversity. They really got punched in the mouth again by Dwenger, and you know, there were questions maybe they wouldn't be able to bounce back from that, but they did. And you know, there were a lot of people right from the opening of the season doubting them against Snyder. And they came out and they showed the whole city what their football program was about in that very first week. And they kind of carried that on throughout the season up until the Dwenger game. But once Dwenger happened and the bad loss happened, they refocused, and they were never questioned as far as their ability the rest of the season.
At the pep rally today, Coach Lindsay was saying in all his time at Bishop Luers, this may be the most athletic group of players that he's had across the board, not just the senior class, not just the juniors, but all the way down to the sophomore level with Michael Rogers and Jalen Smith. I mean, this is a team that maybe you'd have to say had the most athleticism of any team in the city. And I don't want to put words in other people's mouths, but they could win the 3A. They would have been competitive in 3A football this year.
Well, sure they would have. They're good enough to compete with the 3A programs. And, in fact, the IHSA is thinking about implementing a proposal where if you're a repeat state champion, you get moved up a class. So we'll see if that ever comes to fruition in the future. But, yeah, they had so many different offensive weapons and so many different things they could do. But, you know, in the North Putnam game, what really jumped out at me was their defense. I mean, they really controlled the North Putnam running game, which was North Putnam's strong suit coming into it, and North Putnam gave them some adversity. That first half, it was anybody's ball game. North Putnam's defense, give them credit, they did a great job and they shut Luers down. But Luers came out after halftime and just you know, dominated in the second half, took the opening drive, scored to go up 14-0, and their athleticism actually came to show in the second half.
And you take a look at the 4A state championship game, that was, you know, nip and tuck through about 3 of the first 4 quarters. An unfortunate fumble that Dwenger had deep into Cathedral territory really switched things up when they were able to. Cathedral was able to score on the ensuing possession and open the game up. But if you're Chris Schwarzkopf, pretty pleased at the way things turned out this year because, like Luers, they're a team that has the target on their back from day one.
Well, certainly, Bishop Dwenger has nothing to hold their heads down about. They have a magnificent program, and they'll be back again next year. They're a program just like Luers that just tends to reload every single year. But it's hard to look at Bishop Dwenger and say 13-1, ranked second in the state, and really battle Cathedral late into the third quarter before Cathedral got a little bit of breathing room there, courtesy of that fumble. But you know, they have nothing to be ashamed about. They have a magnificent program, and they played well all season long, and winning yet another SAC championship.
When you take a look at what they'll be graduating, obviously Ramon Wright, one of the most talented players in this state, a possibility for Mr. Football. Yeah. Tony Springman on that offensive and defensive line going to Notre Dame, and Cam Smith, another talented player. They're going to lose a lot of guys, but it seems like every season we say the same thing about Bishop Dwenger. They're going to be losing so much talent, especially they've always seemed to be losing a quarterback and Wade Markley like they did last year, but they always find guys and find ways to step up and fill those voids.
Certainly. They lose John Goodman. They lose Trevor Yerrick. They lose Wade Markley. They lose Patrick Ryan. And there'll be another young kid that they've been working with all season long that has gotten JV time that'll be in 7-on-7 in the summer and getting reps that way, and they'll be ready to go come August next year, and they'll be every bit as dominant as they were throughout the regular season. It's a matter of whether they can take that final step next year and get past the Lowells and get past the Cathedrals, and you know, all that remains to be seen. But Dwenger is not a program that's ever going to be down. They have too much talent, and they work with that talent in their feeder system all the way up, And so it's not like they come into next season and they're like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? They're already preparing for next year. They already know they worked all fall with those younger kids, and they developed those kids. So they're going to be just fine, and Luers is going to be just fine. I had one media guy from Indianapolis ask me if a three-peat was possible for Luers, and like you said, with all that young talent, Rogers and Jalen Smith and James Kanapke's back, and we could go on and on and on. Yeah, it's a very distinct possibility they could do that.